The Stalker is pretty good against the Mutalisk, but not perfect. So the Stalker has a good range of 6, a good movement speed, and blink, so the mobility of the Stalker is really good for a ground-based unit, but the damage output of the Stalker against the Muta is not really high, because the Stalker has bonus damage against Armored, which the Mutalisk is not. So the Stalker is not a hard counter against the Mutalisk, but on equal supply, it wins against the Mutalisk, so I'm going to put it into A tier. The next units, the Zealot, Adept, and Dark Templar, they all don't have an anti-air attack. They're all D tier against the Muta. The Sentry is generally not a fighting unit, it's a support unit, but it's actually pretty good against the Mutalisk because of the Guardian Shield spell. So the Guardian Shield removes 2 damage from each attack, and the Mutalisk does 9 damage, so that's already good. But the damage reduction also works on the bounce attacks. So the second bounce of the Mutalisk deals 3 damage, and the third bounce gets 1 damage. And the Guardian Shield removes 2 damage from each of the 2 bounces. So this is a pretty substantial damage reduction. And because of this, I think the Sentry is a pretty good support unit. It really helps your Stalkers against the Mutalisk. I'm also going to put it into A tier, but the other spells, the Force Field, doesn't do anything, and the Hallucinate sometimes helps a little bit for tanking, but it's mainly about the Guardian Shield. It's an A tier. Archon is also very good against the Muta, so if the Mutalisk player decides to fight a group of Archons, the Archons get a very hard win, because the Archon has a bonus damage to biological, applies to the Mutalisk, and the Archon has a splash damage. That's also very powerful against the Mutalisk. But also, I think the Archon is not a hard counter because it just lacks the mobility. So the Archon has a bad range of 3, and it doesn't have the mobility of a flying unit. So the Archon can never force an engagement against the Mutalisk. The Mutalisk can always fly away. So I would say the Archon as a counter to the Muta is like on par with the Stalker, because the Archon attack is much better than the Stalker attack, but the Archon mobility and range is much worse than the Stalker attack. But still, I think the Archon is very strong against the Mutalisk. I'm going to put it into A tier. Next, we have the High Templar. And the High Templar, of course, its main feature is the Psionic Storm. Psionic Storm is solid against the Mutalisk. The splash damage is solid. But I also think that it's not very strong just because the Mutalisk mobility is so high. So the Mutalisk, of course, is a flying unit with a very high speed, and this makes it very easy to dodge the Storm for the Mutalisk. And the Storm deals 80 damage, a Mutalisk has 120 HP, and because the Mutalisk is very good at dodging the storms, you really need a lot of storms to kill a Mutalisk. So I would probably say it's a B tier. Yeah, of course Storm deals damage, but the Muta is very good at dodging. Next we have the Robo units. These are all D tier. None of them has an anti-air attack against the Mutalisk. It's an easy D tier. Then we have the Oracle. And the Oracle number 1, the Oracle attack, the beam attack is only anti-ground, useless. The Stasis Ward also works only on ground units, it's useless. You can use it to tag the Mutalisks with Revelation, but other than that it's useless. I'm also going to put it into D tier. And then we have the Phoenix, and the Phoenix is very good. I'm going to put it straight into S tier. Reason number 1, the Phoenix has a bonus damage to light units. The Mutalisk is light. Number 2, the Phoenix is faster than the Mutalisk. And number 3, the Phoenix has a greater range than the Mutalisk. So Mutas have a range of 3, and Phoenixes have a base range of 5 and upgradable to 7. And this means that if you have a couple of Phoenixes and you micro them, you can basically kill almost an infinite amount of Mutalisks because the speed and the range is greater and the damage is very high. And even if you don't micro the Phoenixes, if you just A-move, it's still a very nice win for the Phoenixes against the Mutalisk. So I think Phoenix against Mutalisks is maybe one of the hardest counter in the game. it's an S tier for sure. The Void Ray is also not good against the Mutalisk, so the Void Ray has a very strong attack bonus against armored units, which the Mutalisk is not. So Void Ray deals very little damage to the Mutalisk, and I'm going to put the Void into C tier because it has to be a little bit better than those units, just because the Void Ray at least has an anti-air attack, but the Void Ray is, I think, actually the only Protoss unit that loses to the Mutalisk on equal supply. So the Mutalisk is generally a pretty weak unit at fighting, but on equal supply, on equal resources, Muta wins against the Void Ray. Void Ray is a C tier. Then we have the Carrier, and the Carrier is, I think, very good. I'm going to put the Carrier into S tier. So the Carrier, number one, it has a large health pool of 450. It has a good damage output against the Mutalisk. It kills the Mutalisk very quickly. Another reason is the Carrier has 2 armor. That's very powerful. So for example, a fully upgraded Carrier has 5 armor and a fully upgraded Mutalisk does 12 damage. So the Carrier armor absorbs like 40% of the Mutalisk damage. The Carrier is a little bit slow, but it still has the mobility of a flying unit, and it has a range that is much greater than the Mutalisk range. It has a range of 8 and a leash range of 12. So it is extremely hard for the Mutalisks to kill a Carrier, and the Mutalisks die very quickly. It is an S tier. Then we have the Tempest, and the Tempest is not super strong. So number one, the Tempest's anti-air attack has a bonus damage against massive units, which the Mutalisk again is not. So the Tempest doesn't deal a lot of damage. And I think the main strength of the Tempest is the range and its ability to kite from a range. But this is not really applicable to the Mutalisk, because the Mutalisk is just a lot faster. So you can't really kite the Mutalisk when you use the Tempest. On the other hand, the Tempest also has 2 armor. It's pretty strong against the Mutalisk, but because it can't really kite and because its damage output is very low, I think I'm just going to put it into B tier. So on equal supply, the Tempest gets a small win usually against the Mutalisk, but it's a small win. Then we have the Mothership, and the Mothership is also pretty good against the Mutalisk. So the main reason is its tankiness. So the Mothership has 350 shields and HP, so that's 700 points in total, and it has 2 armor, so it is just very hard to kill for the Mutalisk. And the Mothership doesn't have the highest damage output, but it has this quadruple attack. It attacks 4 units at the same time, and that's pretty good against the Mutalisk, because Mutalisks pretty much always appear in groups. So I think the main reason is because it's just so tanky, so hard to kill with Mutalisk. I'm also going to put it into S tier. Next we have the Cannon, and the Cannon is also pretty good. I mean, it has a good range of 7, like all defensive units in the game, so it outranges the Mutalisk, and it's just pretty cost efficient at defending. It costs just 150 minerals, and 1 cannon is enough to beat 3 Mutalisks. And this is of course a very nice trait if you kill 3 Mutalisks with 1 cannon. But because it still is a stationary defense and it doesn't offer any kind of mobility, I think I'm going to put it into A tier. Alright dudes, now the tier list is finished, and the tier list turned out to be quite top heavy. You have a lot of units in S tier and A tier, but it is what it is. I mean, the Mutalisk just is a very weak fighting unit. There are lots of units in the game who just beat the Mutalisk. I think the only units that the Mutalisk can beat in a straight up fight are Void Rays and the units with no anti-air. And other than that, it's just more of a harassment unit, and it gets killed by a lot of counters. Alright, thanks for watching.